you hear me? I don't have it up. We have the Pledge of Allegiance, right? Okay. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have anybody speaking tonight?
No public.
Okay. All right. How come you get appointed one and I don't? I didn't know any of that. I don't know. Okay, we don't have any residents speaking tonight, so we're going to start. Oh, we have to do a roll call? Okay. Is anybody online tonight? Oh, she made it. Okay. Okay.
Who's online?
Judy.
Mrs. Brady is on.
Yeah, she wasn't sure if she would have a signal or not. Okay, we're missing, is anybody else coming that you know of?
The only one I knew that probably would be here was Mr. Walkabout. The rest, I'm assuming they're just running behind at this point.
Okay,
And Mr. Bomerski will be here, but he's on another engagement right now.
okay. We will proceed. Dr. Dandridge, it's up to you.
Thanks, Johnson. We're going to start with the presentation here on schooling. So I'll invite Mr. Cregan, Mr. Snitzer, and Ms. Dicely forward to share their presentation.
Hear me? No? That's better? All right.
I can hear you now.
All right. So what we'd like to do tonight is give you a brief overview of a new career planning and awareness program that we implemented this year in grades 7 through 12. After reviewing the previous program in Zello, as well as Naviance and Schoollinks, looking for a program that met the ever-changing standards for career and college readiness. As things have evolved over the years with pathways and all those other things, looking for a program that met the needs of the ever-changing program. Zello is an excellent program that we currently still use in K-6 because the program is much more focused towards the elementary level. Schoollinks has really come a long way and gives us a lot more opportunity for students and staff alike to be able to track, access, and review information both with students and for students to do this on their own. You want to give me the next one? So when we looked at Schoollinks, the areas that really come to mind are obviously the college preparation part. This is really a one-stop shop for the college and career readiness. Students can start the college search, the application process, the FAFSA documentation, transcripts, everything is done directly through this program. It's also a program that syncs directly with Power Schools, so it allows data to dump directly into Schoollinks, which Zello was not able to do when new students enroll in a district, et cetera. And it allows us to track the graduation pathways without the amount of manpower to create spreadsheets and things that we've done for the last several years to be able to track the evidence and the things that have been had to track in order for students to graduate. So it gives us that pathway piece. It allows students to connect directly with local and national industry partners to be able to review careers, contact people. There's internship opportunities throughout those programs. And it also is a good avenue for both an alumni social network. We can put all of our surveys, et cetera, directly in that program. And so when students graduate, they maintain access to the program for the rest of their lives, basically, throughout the Schoollinks program. So it's a
Mr. Cregan, does this sync them with like the Common App or with any?
yes, everything.
Okay.
Everything in the application process is directly done through that, as well as the teacher side. The teachers can upload recommendations, all of those things. And when a student completes the entire process, the staff member, the counselor can look at it, and instead of having to scroll through every student to see where they're completed, it'll actually show that the students checked all the boxes, the counselor sent everything that they need. So it takes the guessing game completely out of it, which was happening in the past. So things don't get missed.
And I forget how it works on the undergraduate side, but I assume that students have to present their final high school transcript showing graduation to their college or university at which they matriculate.
During that process, it's all done electronically now. So even your final transcript can be sent directly electronically.
So facilitates that
Correct.
process as well.
Right, through a parchment the parchment program is the kind of the security site to that.
Right, yeah, okay.
Mhm. Yep. So I'm gonna let Mrs. Dicely talk a little bit about the programming piece. Oh, actually, no, I'm not.
Still you.
All right, the next one.
Next.
I'm slowing down as time goes on here. So the subscriptions we have the core platform, which allows the college and career management piece of it, as well as the scope and sequence to be able to utilize the program in the FCS courses, in the personal financial literacy courses, as well as in middle school. The data tracker, which is an integral part, like I said, when we look at how we've done this in the past, the amount of manpower through spreadsheets, et cetera, to track who met what pathway and Keystone exams, et cetera. This is all done now directly with a link out of PowerSchool. So it'll make it much easier for the counselors themselves to actually track this. And then we've also have 1.5 hour sessions, but 3 virtual days of training. And I can tell you right now that our management representative has been fantastic throughout the summer with us. I can't tell you the number of even shorter sessions they've done to try and help us get started so that everything was rolling, at least through the college process and the scope and sequence piece to start the school year. So they've been fantastic working with us throughout the summer. And now I'll turn it over to Stacey.
All right, so as Mr. Cregan started to mention, there's an entire scope and sequence for grades 7 through 12 that's available for all of the different activities that are in the program. So we met this summer with our team of counselors, secondary counselors, as well as representatives from the FCS department, because this is used in that family and consumer science required 9th grade class. And it's also used in our PFL, the personal financial literacy in 11th grade. And so we went through each item and assigned it a grade level where that item will be completed. This helps us with the graduation requirement of having our career artifacts in place, where we have to have some of those from every grade according to the state. This will now track that really nicely for us. So within that, I'm just going to highlight, you can go ahead, Mike, on to the next couple slides. There are an enormous number of career exploration options. And again, this becomes part of what happens in both the PFL and the FCS class, where students start to explore and can dig into all kinds of information, what careers are out there, where there are the greatest needs, geographically, where are there the greatest needs, which ones are growing the fastest, what are the salaries related to these. And this is all part of what we do in that FCS and PFL class to really give kids that exposure. And it actually starts in middle school as well, because there are some counselor push-in activities where they start doing this kind of exploration. And then there is an incredible college section that again allows them to search for colleges based on what size college they're looking for, what area geographically they're looking for. They can put in all kinds of factors and come up with searches. Many of the colleges have virtual tours that are linked right in there, so they can get that information as well. They can look for degree types and athletic programs. All of that searching is available right here within this program. And then additional, here's how gives you an example of one of the profiles. When you start looking at schools, it'll give you the size of the school, the cost of the school, the graduation rate, all of that data is within there as well. And then the whole application process, which is wonderful, that is all linked within this program. You can go ahead. So another function is scholarship matching. So we can upload our scholarships. So whenever our guidance office hears about scholarships, they can be uploaded right in here, and that way students can find them easily. And a lot of the application process, depending on the scholarship, can be in here, or we can include the link so that they know where to go for scholarships.
Ms. Dice, I'm sorry. Going back to the school profile is obviously the median SATs, median GPA, class rank, all that are important factors, but they're not the only thing that schools look at. And sometimes I found that when students look at tools like this, or on the same thing exists on the law school side with regard to college grades and LSAT scores, you need to make sure that the students know that it's not the only thing. And just because the system says there's only a 10% chance of only 10% of people with your stats are admitted, you might be one of those 10%. So what sort of training is in place to help the students understand that there is a holistic process in place.
Right. So again, these activities and these searches are part of our classes. So that conversation is happening in their PFL class, in their FCS class, and with their guidance counselors. So it's not just happening, they're not just going in and doing these things independently. There are professionals helping to guide them to make the wise decision.
Yeah, but like if they log in at home and their parents are looking at this, the parents might not fully understand how the admission, is there like a built-in pop-up or disclaimer that reminds people of this?
Sure. I mean, I think that that's part of all of the education that we do for our students and all the parent nights that our counselors have. And we do this many different ways. This is just one tool in the bigger picture.
And this was introduced to seniors at college boot camp in August. So seniors got their first look at this for the college and the search piece
Okay.
with their parents at that. So again, it's a gradual process there throughout the semester here. You'll see a lot of that.
It seems like a great tool, but you do have the risk of over-reliance, and that's the fear.
And one of the things to add about that aspect of the college search process that's taking place is they're doing the Holland-based scores reviews. They're doing everything that would be done normally if they were to go and do the exploration on their own. But what's I think one of the highlights of School Links is that the profiles are meant to have them dig deeper, and they look at both the career aspect of things as well as the college exploration of things. So I think, and again, they also, all of our senior counselors and junior counselors, actually all of our counselors meet with our students individually. We've already had a School Links meeting with all the seniors that were there for Wing 5. There's been a lot of opportunities for seniors to do it. And truthfully, there's been a lot of excitement. I have right now at least 7 seniors that have requested just to see me because they found something and they wanted to run something by me because they just were having a good conversation with me at lunch. So there is an exploration that's a little bit extra. And I think there's an excitement because the interactive aspect of School Links kind of makes it fun to be able to go through there, because the filters that were mentioned by Mrs. Dicey allow you to see what other options and say, oh, well, let's look at Virginia and what possible schools we can look at there. Or if I want to look, and it's not just schools for that matter, that would be like traditional colleges. They do have technical schools and they do have options like that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Because my question is, incoming ninth graders, let's say they want to look at trades and stuff. Will this like recommend that, okay, whatever you'd like to do, CTC would be a recommendation as you get?
The program itself, students in ninth grade, I know particularly, they'll do an interest inventory. They'll do, what's the other one? Personality test. They'll do all those things that'll show a plethora of opportunities. And again, the idea is to encourage them to dig deeper, to look through it, to find different things. And it doesn't just gear towards college. It's a career-based program. It bases the careers on, this career is more focused towards you may need a 4-year degree as compared to a trade school, and it will guide them whatever way based on the career that they're looking. We look at seniors and we do focus a lot more on the college piece of it, because that's who digs into it deeper at the 12th grade level. But when you start in ninth grade, you're going to see that career piece is what's going to make the split for students to decide which direction they're going. And that's why we implement it in the ninth grade FCS course, and then again in 11th grade, right before all the Career and Technology Center and all of those kinds of decisions start to roll for your senior year.
And within it, the counselors can assign certain tasks to students once they know their pathway. So if a student says, I'm interested in going into the military, within the system, they can put in a reminder to take the ASVAB, and when the ASVAB is available. If they're going into the trade, they can give specifics. And if they're going to college, it will give your FAFSA is due by this date, your application is due by this
The
date. So
SATs are offered on this date. And
exactly.
it can all be locally based because we have the ability to customize it with a lot of things.
With a lot. In fact, there are so many layers on this. We are just we're learning one step at a time, all the different pieces that are in here. As Brendan said, our rep is amazing. So we've had multiple just 30-minute calls with her to learn new features of it so that we can continually be building. I think it's going to take all year to even begin to experience all that it offers, which some of what it offers is what Mr. Snitzer is going to talk about.
well, before you go on, because you said it sounds like they pick a track, but can the student that the
They
ninth
can
grader, I mean, my
retake-
ninth graders didn't know.
And they can retake the interest inventories. They can retake those as many times as they
So they
want.
can, They
And-
can search the college
Absolutely.
and the
Yep.
career trade.
Yeah,
at
it
the
doesn't, it
same
doesn't
time.
put them and funnel them into a path. It
Okay.
guides them towards what they've selected or what they're interested in, what they're geared toward. But they can reboot that anytime they want and start over and even go a different path if they choose something else. It's all available. It just starts to narrow down as they start to click more and more into it.
Okay, and the counselors that they start with in the ninth grade, do they go with them through the 12th grade? Is
The
that-
ninth grade, they'll have it for ninth and 10th grade. So the ninth grade counselors will do the FCS course. And then some of the items they do as well in the 10th grade health course. And then they switch counselors who, the 11th and
For the
12th grade
11th,
counselors then really dive into, again, by the time you get the end of your sophomore year, then now you're really starting to push towards career, college, CTC, whatever, trade school,
Right,
whatever you're
right.
looking to do.
Now, kids don't apply in junior year anymore, spring, junior year to college?
Most colleges won't accept applications until August 1st.
Okay, now,
So you can begin looking, you can do visits, you can do anything
Okay.
you want to that point, but applications generally are August 1st.
okay, so you mentioned the word, this is fun. I'm thinking back, not that long ago when I did it for my girls who they've been out about 5 or 6 years out of high school. I wouldn't have called it fun at all to go through all of this. So after you do this, I want a report back to know if it actually was fun
it's
and
much
if
more-
it was
yeah.
easier for parents. I mean, I was
Yeah.
like pulling my hair out.
It's much easier to navigate for both students and everybody compared to what they were using in the past. And I think that's what students are more excited about is that the ease of use has really helped. And again, if you look at it, is obviously more visibly appealing than some of the programs you probably have seen or we've all seen in the
Oh,
past. So that's helpful.
I'm sure you know what I'm talking about if you've had a kid recently who went through this, but, okay. So you say they meet with their counselors individually? They just do that like once a year or as needed, once a year and then as needed and follow up as
Well,
needed?
once a year and as needed.
Okay,
So the counselors, of course, will go review schedules and
Sure.
other options like that. But
Mhm.
then when they're senior year, they start really like following them and supporting them
Mhm.
as they start going after their career, because that leads into our pathways to graduation and making sure that they fulfill that. So we've spoken before about Act 158 and how that's meant,
yes.
but you want to go.
Okay.
This has actually made things remarkably easier, but also put more of an onus on the students for filling out some of this information as well. So we now, instead of massive spreadsheets and diving into those aspects and not being able to find certain information and having, 30 people trying to make sure something is taking place, we now have a pre-developed program through with the engineering team at School Links to be able to help us with, an example would be Pathways to Graduation, in which we can do full uploads of Keystone scores, we can do uploads of SAT scores, AP scores, and what this does is allows those areas to auto-populate so that we can then go through and be able to help students to, as they reach their Pathways to Graduation. Then for those students who take pathways, like a pathway 5, which has alternative pathways where they have to fulfill different requirements, the students now have the option to be able to upload information, whereas before they take a picture and then they give it to their counselor, and then the counselor would send it to the person who has the spreadsheet and they would click it. Now they can actually upload that information. It is reviewed by a counselor and then said yes. And then it's so much, I hate to say the word simpler, but it's simpler in the idea that it's right there. We can look at it. And instead of having to search deeply, we can now do a quick look for that student, see what they need, and make sure they get it a little bit faster.
So I don't recall exactly, but this means that you're going to catch the kids earlier who don't have the requirements. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden that last few weeks or last semester or quarter, you're
Yeah.
scrambling. Okay.
We also didn't have a way in the past for students to see it themselves if they had met a pathway. And so because we kept it all on spreadsheets on the other end, and we communicate with kids who didn't meet a pathway, but now kids can actually see it themselves right in the system once everything is uploaded and we have it rolling, because that's still part of what we have to do right now is get all the data uploaded into it. So again, this is a learning process for all of us and for our team, but we're making a lot of progress. And actually, when our conversations with the our representative, we found something that wasn't quite right in the way that they had their PA tracking. So they had to have their engineers go back and fix a piece of it, and they did right away. I mean, they've been incredibly responsive. So we're still working through all those details.
And another benefit too is they have made it customizable to Hempfield, and that they're looking at our courses and reviewing those and making sure that those indicators show up on there. Whereas it's not just a general like, oh, that they take Algebra 1B. We have the coding for the courses. We're able to do uploads that way. So we're ensuring that ensuring that students are meeting that. And again, students can now ensure that they are meeting their pathway to graduation.
So this is keeping track of credits earned too? No.
No, no. That is still done through Power School and through our counselors.
So one of the other things that we've been working on, again, because we have to collect career artifacts in each grade, our counselors have always been the ones who are responsible for trying to track that, because that's another graduation requirement that PD has put upon us that involves a lot of tracking. Again, we can do that within our system, and examples of some of the things that we do are our junior achievement days, where oftentimes in the past, the student reflections from those days become their career artifacts that we upload. But what had to happen in the past was kids had to take their they had to fill out a paper form, take a picture of it with their iPad, then upload it into the system. And so it was always multiple steps to get it there. Now what we're able to do in School Links is create our own custom forms so that students can complete those reflections directly in the system. And then we'll be able to see that they have been completed. And again, it just makes that tracking easier and takes away a lot of those steps. So we've just learned how to make those custom forms. The middle school had theirs up and going right away because their junior achievement days came first. High school counselors are working on theirs next. We can do all kinds of forms like that, including exit surveys that we always do with our seniors. Alumni surveys can all be done now through this system. So we can create those forms again. As Mr. Snitzer said, what's great about this system is that it is customizable to Hempfield.
Mrs. Dicey, it's not exactly on point, but your slide reminds me, I actually had the great pleasure of participating in yesterday's Junior Achievement Day over at Centerville, and it was terrific. I actually volunteered with Mrs. Skyer, who was with us this afternoon. And she and I led a class where they were building pyramids of red Solo cups. And it was quite enjoyable that one group of boys set the cups up in what I can only describe as not the correct format, but one that many of us would recognize. We were able to redirect them, and they built the pyramids quite effectively. And it was a pleasure working with Mrs. Skyer as well.
Thank you.
This is probably it's an uninformed question. You talk about, oh, we upload. Who uploads all this stuff? I mean, it's a lot of stuff. Who does that?
Well, it takes a team because we need our technology department to upload the data from our test scores. But in the creation of the forms and all of that, that comes from our counselors. They're doing a lot of that behind the scenes work. Mr. Snitzer and I have spent quite a bit of time together this summer working through the scope and sequence and getting those pieces. So there are a lot of different hands in making it work.
And one other additional is that we have students uploading information, which before, again, that was very limited in being able to do that, giving them, license to be able to control their own careers a little bit more in that process in high school. So there's a lot of uploading, but it's a lot of uploading by people, and the people who are actually connected to it are seeing it. And I think that's even more important.
So how many, what's, for lack of a better term, caseload does each counselor have, say, in the high school? How many students do they have?
At roughly at the high school, it's right around the 300 mark. 250, 300
We have two counselors
per grade level.
Okay.
So.
And that's about the same at middle school, same breath
Middle school is about the same, yes.
breakdown. All right, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions? Do you have any more comments? Oh, okay.
I would like to comment that this is likely Mr. Cregan's very last presentation ever. I had to rope him into being here tonight, so.
She does do a nice job of keeping me involved in the last 3 weeks that I've been here, so.
No, but in all seriousness, we do need to thank Mr. Cregan. He had planned to retire the end of the last school year in July.
July.
But then he stayed on with us willingly, and it has always been a pleasure having him here. And just thank you.
Thank
You've done a phenomenal
Yes.
job in your time here, and we're greatly indebted to you.
It's been a pleasure. I'll let you know in a couple months.
And we know if we need help, we can call on him.
Before you leave, Mrs. Brady, do you have any comments or any questions? She's still there?
No, I just finally connected. No, I do not have any further questions. I think this sounds great. I'm staring at some pretend dinosaurs in Colorado right now, but it all sounds great, and I'm really glad that it's an improved process over what I experienced when I was there.
As a parent, sounds great. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask this. I think this is terrific. And, sometimes it's no secret that I feel like we go out and buy a computer program for everything. But this is one of those situations where I really see the value and the integrations in it. What is the fee for this service?
The fee, this year, the fee was a little bit additional because of the integration piece of it, but the fee itself will be the same as what we paid for Zello as we move into previous years. And I don't know.
I'm sorry, I
It's
didn't.
the same what we paid when we used Zello, so it won't be any different. The only difference was there was an increased cost the first year because of the technology integration that we had to do with PowerSchool. So it'll be
Okay.
much the same. There won't be much of an increase at all.
And we're dropping the other one, correct?
Yeah, we're only using Zello now in K-6 because that program is much more geared towards the elementary level, and school links themselves admittedly, when we were going through all the research, looking at all the programs, admitted that they are probably not the best program K-6 at this time. They're beginning to upgrade that program to make it look and integrate with the high school 7 through 12 level. But right now they're not there, and they did not want to encourage us to jump with them at the elementary level, which
So
was.
they able to make a bridge between the two?
Yeah, that's
So
the plan.
information
They have a
about
couple years, they hope to be able to do that, and it will be
No, I mean,
consistent effort.
the current program for 1st through 6th, will they be able to make the program?
Because
that
the
don't-
way they use it, yes, there'll be no issue with that, because the way they use it is much different as far as the elementary level career and search is much more on a much more basic level.
There's also additional savings to the district and the fact that we don't have to purchase any alumni tracking surveys like we did in the past. This is all integrated into this system. And not only is it integrated to track where they're at, what they're doing, it's also going to allow us to make connections for some of those careers where we can actually try to start to establish a alumni network within. And as Mrs. Dicely said, there's a lot of components to this, and it's very exciting, and it's going to take some time to develop, but there's a lot here for us. So we're looking forward to it.
Thanks for staying on to help with the process. Thank you. And next,
All right, so the next presentation that I have for you is just sharing a little bit about our 3-year professional learning plan, which we are implementing this year. Just a little background review of our professional development experiences at Hempfield. So as you know, we have 9 additional full days of in-service that we provide to staff. 7 of those are district-directed in-service days. 2 of them are our AIS or alternate in-service days, where staff can choose to take professional development outside of the day, and we'll get credit for those 2 days that were at the end of last school year. In addition to that, we also have our 10 early dismissal days, along with 2 additional ones at the elementary for parent-teacher conferences. So those are all the different times that we are providing professional development for our staff. They typically come in 4 different variations. So district trainings, that's an opportunity for us to provide some district level workshops to all of our staff. Often we might provide state mandated trainings during that time to be part of our district opening, things like that. We have then school level trainings typically organized and run by our principals. Might be on individual building initiatives that are going on at the elementary. Our positive behavior intervention support plans are oftentimes being developed during those days. Things like brain tracks at the middle level might be things that we are working on, or school-wide improvement plans, data tracking, things like that. We also have department and grade level training. A lot of curriculum work happens during that time, a lot of collaboration with staff on writing assessments, or if they are in a curriculum cycle time where they are reviewing or writing curriculum, that's done during that time. There's a lot of staff collaboration. We also are training on new programs that we might be bringing on, like for instance, in the elementary level, Wit and Wisdom and Savas over the past couple of years. And we also have self-directed time for staff. That might be at our semester transition times or end of term grading time for staff to complete grades or report card preparation. They can use that time for mandated trainings that are not happening during our other days, or other self-directed in-service experiences that they may choose. So those are different variations that we have. The plan that I'm talking about here, the 3-year plan that we are implementing, is primarily that district training time. So what we are doing with that time as we are rolling out workshops to our staff. So we do have a professional development committee who reviews each year the professional development that has taken place and gives suggestions for the future, helps guide our planning. Last year, it's a little fuzzy up there, but you can see the priorities for our staff as to where they would like to see professional development being offered. We had over 300 staff respondents last year, with student engagement and behavior interventions being our top 2 areas where staff are asking for additional training. You also see some newer topics on there, things, new trends in education, such as artificial intelligence, or maybe some of the structured literacy training that has been revamped here in the state recently. And so we take that information at the end of every year, and that really helps guide our development of a professional development calendar for the future. Beyond the survey then, the Professional Development Committee meets and reflects on that data and also shares feedback. So some of the reflections on last year's professional development and some questions that came up during that meeting were questions about the protected in-service days and why we have those. And those protected in-service days, we have 2 of those throughout the year. Really allow us to prioritize some of the staff development that we offer, because we know we'll have a higher attendance rate. So we can be efficient if we are bringing in consultants, or if we are adopting a new program, we're going to offer it on those protected days, because we know we're going to see more of our staff. They had questions about the mandated trainings. We were a little bit surprised by the state last year that we had to offer some new mandated trainings, and that rolled out mid-year. It was not at the beginning of the year, so we had to be a little flexible about how we were going to offer that last year. Caused us to be a little creative and how we were tracking everyone's trainings. So there was a lot of conversation in this meeting about how we can be more proactive about those mandated trainings going forward. And I think you'll see some of that in the plan that I'm going to speak about in a moment. There was some discussion about that balance of having our own staff provide professional development and sharing their expertise versus bringing in experts in the field, and making sure that we are looking at both of those, especially for some of those high priority sessions that they were looking for in the survey. Some of the feedback that we received on our current professional development is that it could be strengthened by a theme or some sort of unifying work. We have had models like that in the past, but it's really what led to this 3-year plan that we've been working on over the course of the past year. And there was also some discussion about how last year's calendar had 2 AAS days. This year, we only have 1. So that will cause staff to kind of prioritize some of their choices in professional development coming into this current school year. So with all of that feedback, we met and have planned and have developed this new 3-year professional learning plan. We're also referring to it, we love our acronyms in education, as the PLP. So we're hearing that tossed around a little bit. The PLP is going to have a combination of several required sessions for staff that they will take over the course of 3 years. And I'll show you all those topics in just a moment, as well as a variety of extension topics that we can be flexible with and offer as additional experiences for our staff throughout these 3 years. We are going to have, and this is a little screenshot of what this year's looks like. We're going to have a tracking document for the staff where they can check off the sessions that they've taken throughout the course of the 3 years with a little bit of a reflection at the bottom. So if they took the Ethics A course during a workshop in September, they would check that off, reflect on how they could use that in the classroom. And that way they can extend the learning beyond that 1.5 hour workshop and into their practice.
Dr. Dander, does School Links have a thing that could integrate this for everybody?
This is
No.
not something that would integrate with School Links, but we did put together a Google Doc tracking document. So we would have, in the past, when we've had models like this, a lot of staff will remember, I know when I started teaching here at Hempfield, we had a blue workshop manual that we carried around with us and hope it didn't get lost throughout the year in our filing cabinets that we marked off all those experiences. So we're trying to modernize a little bit by having the electronic tracking, and hope that will work out well. It is important to say, I think, too, that at the end of the year evaluation with your principal or supervisor is when you'll review that document with them, so you can talk about the experiences that you had throughout the year and make sure you're on track for hitting all those requirements over 3 years.
I have a question. Mr. Bomersky, are we going to incorporate this bullying plan?
You'll see it in a minute. I'm going to
Okay,
show you.
you're ahead.
Jump ahead. No, that's all right. Good question. So some of the goals of this plan, just before I get to what the actual sessions that we are requiring are, is to really allow us to stay on top of current educational trends and be able to offer those trends to our staff, to really enhance their teaching strategies beyond what they learned in their undergraduate coursework or graduate coursework. We are also balancing the state requirements. So those state mandated professional development experiences that are being required of our staff, we want to incorporate those as best we can into this PLP. And you'll see several of those workshops are going to be offered for our staff on in-service days. We're developing sessions to better support the diverse student needs that we have here at Hempfield, and making sure that we are looking at improving student outcomes. So those are some of the goals as we were developing these workshops in this plan. All right, so to get to the required sessions, so what are we offering here? These are the sessions that all staff will need to take over the course of 3 years. A couple of them have asterisks. Those are state mandates. We are required to offer structured literacy to many of our staff that have a certain certification. We are required to have ethics training. We are required to have culturally relevant and sustaining education, professional development for our staff. And the last one, safety and security, trauma-informed practices. That one is the one that's actually a yearly requirement. We must provide that to our staff every single year. The first 3 were throughout the course of our 3-year plan. So beyond some of those state requirements, all the topics are listed up here. The time requirements are not necessarily. So structured literacy is a heavier lift. That one takes 9 to 10 hours of content to deliver effectively. So we have 4 sessions of structured literacy for our staff that we need. So they have to take the A, B, C, and D session. So a lot of these are maybe just an 1.5 hour workshop in the required side of things. So beyond some of the state required sessions, we are also adding workshops on accommodations and modifications for the classroom. ELD is for our English learning development students and how to better support them. Behavior and emotional regulation was one that was a direct need out of the staff survey. As Mr. Maris was asking about just a moment, bullying and cyberbullying is a priority for us here. So there will be at least one required session on here. We've been actually in training the past 3 days. I would say really quality training. I've been extremely impressed with the McGrath training that we have been sitting in over the course of the 3 days. So we are in the process of getting together as a district team and determining what that implementation plan is going to look like. But that will be part of the bullying and cyberbullying sessions that we'll offer to staff. Special Education 101 will be a required session, as well as some current trends in technology. Universal access and data security are topics that all of our staff need to be aware of as they are using the tools in the classroom. Copyright and fair use is the last topic on there that are required experiences. So all of our staff will hit those throughout the course of 3 years.
So when you say all of our staff, you mean the professional staff?
Yes.
But the safety, security, and trauma informed, that's for
That is
all
for all staff, support staff, our coaches, our substitutes, any of our staff that work at Hempfield have to have that. And that is a yearly requirement. So yeah, that's a heavy lift.
Thanks for that reminder and update.
Is there, because that behavior and emotional regulation was so high, is that also for the rest of the staff, not just professional? Like, is there a requirement or
Sure.
is that an expectation that that's a big one because it was so high?
Yeah, so this plan is just recognizing what we're doing on those district in-service days and what we're asking our professional staff. There are plenty of requirements for some of our support staff in sessions that they have to take and the amount of credits that they have to take yearly. So a lot of those elements, while not reflected on these slides, are things that we are prioritizing as we are offering that training to our other members.
I just think of behavior and emotional regulation being so important at
Sure,
recess, lunch, like all those
Absolutely.
other times.
absolutely.
And potentially the bullying, cyberbullying would be good for support staff too, I think.
Yep.
They're gonna help with
We can't
that.
hear you, guys. We can't hear you. So,
Oh, that's unusual for you to say it, Linda.
well, I'm just-
So I'm sorry,
Both talking
support,
about-
so I said support staff would be, I think, somebody to incorporate in the bullying.
Yep. So as Dr. Dandridge just shared, we just spent the last 3 days getting ourselves trained. And now we need to take some time to debrief that and then figure out what that's going to look like with the company that we're partnering with. We have an implementation specialist that'll be working with us. And yes, we will be looking to do that for all staff because there's connections to not only bullying, cyberbullying, but also to Title IX and some other regulations. So we're trying to figure out how to take all of the required regulations and also bring in those pieces that we're deeming as just as essential. And how do we blend that together for everybody?
Thank you.
Yeah, your point's well taken. We had a healthy discussion at the end of today's training about, our bus drivers who are contracted but work with our students, right? And our
Yeah.
coaches and our substitutes. So trying to make sure that we're hitting all of our populations. out
Excellent,
there.
thank you.
Beyond the required sessions, we are also keeping our eye on a bunch of extension topics. This list may change and adapt over the 3 years, and it's meant to be a flexible plan. But some of the topics that have been requested and or we felt were important for our staff. A lot of different technology topics are always popular workshops that we offer, including artificial intelligence. Instructional strategies, DI, student engagement are all important for our classroom teachers. You can see a number of topics that have been brainstormed already, but this list will continue to grow and be worked on and refined over the course of the 3 years. So that's the 3-year plan in a nutshell. It is something that we're excited about. I think it's responsive to what the committee was looking for, to have a structure to what we're offering, as well as kind of some themes that we could use to make sure that we are getting some quality professional development experiences out there for our professional staff.
You want to go? Say any other questions?
I've got 4.
Oh.
Actually, 4.2.
I'll take them however many
So,
you got.
first question is, I don't know if I'll speak for myself. I don't know if I'll be able to pull this off, but if I wanted to go to a course on ethics, bullying, team building, can I go?
So we would be happy to have our board members join us for any of our
You can
professional
say no,
development
it's okay.
experiences. I'll take you and we can sit right next to each other and go through all these experiences. We
Can I be put in a
do.
group with
It-
staff?
It is offered. Yeah, Tab will get you soup at the cafeteria in lunchtime.
Say no more.
I will say, so obviously these sessions are for our in-service days for our professional staff. We do at times offer that training to our substitutes, or some support staff might sit on it. We also offer this to our non-public schools in the district. We offer them to participate in our professional development. So we do invite others into them.
Yep.
They are primarily designed for the professional staff.
Understood. So it's just a no. Right? You can say it, it's okay. I won't have my feelings hurt too much. Takes a lot. So second thing is going back to slide 3, and that's okay, by the way. Going back to slide 3, 2 questions, actually 3 questions on this. Number 1, how many respondents?
310.
310. Cool, thank you. All right. So that's 60% of our staff. Just shy. Good.
About that.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Or just over half. All right. Second question is, what is database decision making? What is career awareness? Define those 2 things for me, if you could, please.
So where are you?
First and third, slide 3. on the graph. What does that mean?
So those were topics that were pulled out through previous professional development surveys that we've given for our staff. So database decision-making, I would say, is kind of like data-informed instruction, right? So being able to take our tools like our diagnostic data that we are determining literacy skills for our students and make it actionable in the classroom, right? So how can you take that and maybe create some ability groups with your students, or mixed ability groups with your students that will inform instruction. So loosely, that would be what a session like that might be talking about.
Okay.
Right. What was the other one? I'm sorry.
The other one was career awareness. What is
Career awareness.
awareness?
So School Links might be a perfect example of a training session that might be centered around school career awareness. We are required to have so many artifacts for our students throughout the course. It's a graduation requirement, the course of their K-12 experience. So how do we provide those experiences for students? What kind of tools do we have to track them? Junior achievement would be another area where we might be doing some professional development around career awareness.
Okay. I noticed those because number 1, I didn't know what they meant. Everything else I think is self-explanatory enough where I think I can muddle through it, bump along through it. But why do you suppose those 2 are so low in terms of the choices?
I think because they only have
seem
3
kind of
choices, right? So if they're looking at what you're only voting for 3 of them here, right? So if I look at things like student engagement, that's going to be high on a teacher's list. I would
which
say
is good.
a large
Good.
majority of them are choosing it, right?
Yep.
Behavior interventions obviously are one that people are obviously usually gravitating towards. Sometimes career awareness is something that we think is done down the hallway in the counseling office rather than in our classroom. So sometimes it's just us bringing greater awareness of how we can incorporate that in the classroom.
Sure.
So I'm just guessing as to why they might rank them that way, but
No problem.
that would be some of the areas I would
Caught
say.
my attention.
Sure. Sure. We did, yeah. I'm showing
Would
you all
make sense,
stuff. But we do have it broken down by secondary and elementary and slight differences in some of the trends.
Yeah, makes
So
sense.
what was the total? What's the total professional?
310 took the
310,
survey last year.
yeah.
Out of how many?
Roughly 550-ish, give or take
Ish,
a couple,
So are we disappointed that 230 didn't respond?
or 40+%.
It's an opportunity for them to have a say in the professional development that's offered. So we take as many responses as we get. It's not a required survey that they have to take. We do have all of we have liaisons in each of our schools that are on the professional development committee, encouraging all their staff to take it. So it's a good amount. 300+ responses is a good amount for us to have some quality data to review on. I would always love 100%, but I know I'm not going to get it.
I think
So
the
does
other
that
piece-
mean 240 don't really care, or? I mean, I'm just,
I
that
think one
seems
way-
disappointing to me.
I think one way to look at it is when you give people the opportunity to have voice, and they choose to share what they're thinking or what they would like to see, great. And if they choose not to, then they get what's there. And so moving forward, if people say, well, like, oh, I'd rather a session on this, or I would like to do this, but did you fill out the survey? Did you complete it? Next time, offer your voice. So that's another piece. Like, we give the voice, we give that option. If people choose it, great. And if not, then they would be okay with what we're offering.
This seems like it's a non-threatening anonymous thing. Why wouldn't you respond? It just,
I think for me, I often don't like to respond to these things because I have confidence in the people that are putting it together. And so I'm okay with not adding my voice to it. Because we're all professionals and why wouldn't they do a good job?
Although it's important to hear what the teachers want too, right?
Well, we did. I mean, we heard over 60% of them, and next year it might be a different 60%. And sometimes you have more time. And I mean, our teachers have a lot of paperwork and a lot of stuff to do.
When
This would be pretty low on my list of. what I
So
would
this
do.
is offered in the beginning of April, I believe is when we administered it last year, March, April.
How much time did they have?
I think we gave them a week to 10 days.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it's.
One last question, sorry, and thank you, but, and by the way, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'd love to see 100% too. I mean, the reality of it is, it's not a bad sample size to get the information you need, so, I'd like to see more as well, but, anyway, just curious. Last question is, and if you touched on this, or if you, my apologies if I missed it somewhere, how do we hold accountable, how do we hold folks accountable post-training? There's a lot of sessions in here, there's a lot of good stuff in here. What do you do from an accountability standpoint post-training? It's probably one of the biggest things, whether it's corporate America or it's anywhere, that is a big fail, right? So, hey, we come to a webinar, let's go see a TED Talk, let's go jump on, let's go to a 2-hour training session, let's listen to a keynote speaker, and then what happens? Everyone goes and pours a glass of wine, goes gets dinner, and they go home, and everything's forgotten. What's the accountability structure here?
So it's one of the reasons what we feel this plan was so important. We had conversations, a staff member who's been out of the classroom for 20 years, like what did their special education coursework look like, and how much has changed over the course of those 20 years, right? So we really wanted to have consistent workshops that we knew everyone was going to go through, where they would get that base level information that we could build on. So we are kind of resetting that bar for them throughout the course of those 3 years. We have accountability with the tracking document, so we know who's taken those workshops, right? And then every 3 years, we're going to re-examine, what are the needs and what do we need to make sure is being offered. As I'm looking at this plan as a whole and kind of some of my criteria for evaluating it, year one for me is about the quality of the sessions and making sure that we're implementing them with fidelity. Our staff have been developing the sessions right now. We've been reviewing them as a team for quality and consistency. And then we want to be able to have these workshops packaged that any presenter who's gone through the training can offer this, and we'll have a similar experience for all of them. Year two is really about being able to offer all the sessions and getting our staff members through them, so that I know by the end of year three, we'll be able to hit all 17 of those required sessions and experiences. And then starting to looking at the staff feedback about the quality of the sessions and the effectiveness of it. Are there any refinements that we need to make? Year three, I want to start bringing in some of those accountability features, like what's the impact on student achievement? Are we seeing any growth in our classroom?
That's what I'm getting at.
Right.
Yeah, keep going.
I don't think we're there year one or two, right? We have to kind of build this as we're going and make sure that it's being done well. But by the third year, when I've got a large majority of my staff through these sessions, right, that's when we can start looking at the impact in the classroom. I'm also interested in what the staff are feeling about those surveys, or about those workshops, and getting their feedback on the quality of the learning. And then we will adapt and respond from there. This is a 3-year plan. It's meant to be flexible and responsive. It's allowing us to then determine what the direction of the next 3 years is going to look like.
Understood. Yeah, I appreciate it, Doug. I mean, it's, the intent of the question and the thought process is there's a very, very significant difference between attendance and application in the real world.
Sure.
And unless there's internal management of the latter, this doesn't matter. Know what I mean? So that's why I want to make sure that there's some accountability here to make sure that this is actually being practiced in the real world. So we can talk about bullying all day to Charles's point, since that's a big topic. At the end of the day, is it stopping? Are we slowing the bleeding? Is it being addressed? Who knows?
I would
That's what I'll make sure
assume
of.
we're gonna maybe track some numbers and stuff to hopefully the it helps reduce bullying. That's the objective, or student engagement. Students are engaged more and what have you.
You know me, I'm a data guy, right? I love analyzing what we're doing and make sure it's effective. Of those 17 experiences, I think they're going to have different reviews and different data elements that are going to tell me about the effectiveness. So it's going to look a little different depending on what topic we're talking about.
Yeah.
But we're definitely going to be paying attention to it.
Very good. Thanks, Dr. Dandridge.
I'm also hoping that this aligns with the goals of the districts, because a lot of these trainings can project a path forward, not just, just so they're educated, right?
Sure.
So I'm hoping that when you're reviewing the content, that it's driving the path of the goals of the district.
Yeah,
For
agreed.
that purpose. And I agree with Pat that there needs to be accountability as far as we shouldn't be doing something just to do something, checking a box. We need to have it with an end goal, and that we need to be able to see that we hit that goal.
Yeah, I think the structure will allow for that for us. It will also, you'll be hearing a lot about it. Like I know Dr. Muster is going to be talking about kicking off the comprehensive plan here over the next couple months. We're certainly going to be incorporating that into that plan, as well as our induction plan with our new staff. And you're going to see it across the district.
So to follow along with Pat's question with the slide that says another acronym.
PLP?
More than the military, I think. PLP.
You got it.
Goals. Is this something that will be part of the team meetings, evaluations by principals?
So the
that
offerings
you
will be,
talked about, I know it may or may not be in the rubric, but
yeah.
to be discussed, how are they feeling about that? Like, do you feel like you're pretty current on educational trends or whatever this?
So in terms of the staff members evaluation, that'll be done at the end of the year, evaluation meeting with their principal or with their supervisor, and they'll have the tracking document to have evidence of that, as well as our My Learning Plan workshop registrations. We're looking to offer these during our district in-service days. We have one in September, one in March. And then I know we'll be offering these over the summer for AIS credit or in some after-school workshop sessions as well.
So there'll be some peer interaction and not just supervisors, but also peer interaction. How are you doing with this? Like the ELD, working with those kids, for
Yeah.
example.
I didn't hear the last part that you said.
I'm sorry, I mumbled. I'll get closer here for the, like with, working with the ELD students. Do you feel like these workshops have helped? Are you seeing an improvement with what you're doing? So
Yeah.
that would be peer-to-peer, more talking.
Yeah,
As opposed
absolutely.
to an formal evaluation. type.
It is one of the things that we've been looking for as we've been evaluating the workshops is the level of faculty member engagement in the sessions rather than just a sit and get session, right? And the collaboration and the discussion that we want to make sure is happening during that workshop. So those are important.
Mrs. Brady, do you have anything?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we
can.
can.
Perfect. So you said you're going to still continue to use my learning plan, and my recollection of using that was that after workshops, immediately after workshops, I think we had to fill them in within 24 hours to get the credit to fill in what our reactions and responses and key learnings were. So that would be going in to be reviewed by supervisors, principals, presenters, what have you. Is that still the current trend of how that's being handled? And then secondly, my experience was that we learned wonderful things in the learning workshops, but you bounce from one to another in a given day, whether it was an early dismissal or a full day, but then there wasn't that time, that individual time immediately following it that you could have the time to implement, that you could go back to your classroom. And I'm not saying that never happened, but it just never seemed like there was enough time to take what you learned, if it was coming at you in the middle of the year and you didn't have your summer to deal with it, to have the time to make a plan and review what you're doing and what your plans are and how am I going to work this into my learning. So I think that's my biggest concern with professional development is how are we giving staff that time to implement what we are teaching and expecting them to do beyond the sit and take it in? Do they have that time to rework their own plans to build it in? So comment, question, comment, whatever.
Sure. Time's always our most precious commodity, right? So to answer your first question, we are still using My Learning Plan. There is an evaluation that is completed at the end of each workshop. The only difference from what you mentioned is the staff members have 1 week to get the evaluation completed to make sure they have credit in the system.
Got it. Thank you, Maya.
Yeah, so that, but that system is still being used. In terms of reflection and how you are going to use the workshops, I didn't show you the whole tracking document, but as a team, as we were developing that document, it was important for us to have the reflection piece. So actually underneath the checklist where you're checking off the workshops that you've taken, there is a reflection area at the bottom that's meant to talk about, it states that the staff member should be reflecting on how they will use this in the classroom, what application they see, so that they can take what they've received throughout the course of that workshop and really push it forward and think about how they will use it in their individual settings. So that was important for us to think about as well. We have a piece in there on it, but I'm sure we'll continue to find ways to refine that as we go forward as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would just stress that part from lived experience, that that's kind of where it all often falls apart. But thank you for addressing it.
Got it.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Dandridge for putting this together. Very, very nice summary, and kind of helps the board understand what the plan is.
I have one comment just after hearing everyone else's comments and questions. Is there a way for you, as you know, the administration kind of leading it, to be or kind of keep track more proactively of things like topics as they come up in education? Because when I looked at the survey and things like that, you know, student engagement, behavior interventions, I feel like have been a thing for a little bit. You know, sometimes to be out ahead of some of these, I think would be better for our district. And just if there's kind of a plan within this plan to just be more proactive, like, or keep track of, or what is, I know you said it was reflective and responsive, but I think that would be really key in helping, you know.
Yeah, on that survey too, I would say there's a challenge whenever you're putting a survey like that together of leaving it completely open-ended. And then if someone writes a topic slightly differently, you're not really getting good data. So you want to have kind of broader topics that they're responding to. I know for sure in our Java-like meetings that we are having at the IU, we're always talking about what are the current trends, how can we be responsive in the district, and then the Professional Development Committee, which is a combination of CBA members and administrators working together. That is one of their tasks to really come together and say, what do we need to be responsive on the district to have the training that is going to make sense for our staff going forward. So it's part of our purposes. It's always a topic that we're, trying to do better. So
I think you
when you
see some of those in the
point well taken.
extension activities as well. They're a little more current, like the AI piece is something that's hot right now. So that's a little bit more flexible as a training model.
I think when you look at some of the things from the survey, we've been offering sessions on in-service days now for several years, but it's been more choice. And I think moving to, here are things that we want to see collectively required to build the knowledge consistently. And then to Dr. Musser's point, when you start to see the extensions, as you start to see some of those other topics building those in. But as we look forward through the comprehensive plan, that's where we can also start to say, we have this kind of part one. So how do we start building in some other components that we see as needs for us as a district looking K-12? How do we build and grow the knowledge of staff to keep, to your point, Mrs. Eshelman, kind of ahead and not always have it be just choice. I think we have to come to a point where we say, no, we want this for all staff. And once we can kind of start to layer that in, then that allows you to also to start getting ahead.
Yeah, along that vein, my sense is the survey was just to try to see what the teachers are looking for, but the administration can also say, hey, we want this for everyone. That was just part of how you selected. It wasn't the only part of.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, that concludes the education and programs part of the meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. And before we move on, I just wanted to take a moment. I had the pleasure of attending the Hempfield Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Friday, and I just wanted to compliment Mr. Maris, Mrs. Burkholder, everyone who was involved in that process, because it was exceptionally well organized. It was very meaningful. It's a wonderful opportunity to bring our alumni back, celebrate their accomplishments, and to sort of build those connections across generations that are a fundamental part of who we are here at Hempfield. So, Mr. Maris, Mrs. Burkholder, everyone else, thank you.
Thank you. And Kelly and Ryan Landis and many, many people were part of that, but thank you.
At this point, we're going to do things slightly differently. We're going to go ahead and call a recess for an executive session for negotiations. I anticipate that the executive session will probably take about a half hour, give or take. So we are not adjourning at this point. We're going to call a recess, and then we will reconvene following the executive session for the policy, personnel, and legal portion of the meeting. So we are in recess.